For instance, one called an excess flow valve. Run your propane while you are traveling. Confusion, obviously, with this adapter. He couldn't tell me why, so therefore I couldn't believe him. To let you know, if you run across this, it does not say anywhere 1/4 inch. You do not want them 90 degree or below. 2 different threads, we don't need to go over that again. But anyway, she got mad. Love the sunsets here.
Beautiful.
Well, good morning, visionaries. I think it's been a little over a year and a half ago, we did a video about the gas stop device. Since that time, we've noticed a lot of comments about the gas stop device, and some people thinking that you don't need a gas stop device because your propane tank and your lines already have a protection on them. And they do have a protection on them. There's a valve, for instance, one called an excess flow valve. But the one thing you got to keep in mind, those valves, that protection, it does not shut your propane off 100%. I don't know about you, but if I have a leak inside my RV, especially if I've been gone for a while and it's been leaking in there, or if we're sleeping and it's leaking in there overnight, in such a small space especially, I don't want any percentage of propane leaking into where I'm sleeping, or I come home and I flip on a light switch. Like an excess flow valve, I think it stops at about, I think it's around 90%. You can check me on that. So that would leave, what, 10% flowing into your RV if there's a leak inside your RV. The gas stop device, on the other hand, it does shut your propane off 100%. If you have a leak, it detects that. It has a little steel ball inside the valve that drops and shuts it off 100%. It's very fine-tuned so that it shuts your propane off completely. Again, 100%. There's a few benefits to this device, actually, but the second thing is, as you've probably been told, you're not supposed to drive with your propane on. We have a refrigerator when we're driving, going long distance, whatever, and you have to shut it off, and you don't want to run off of your generator. That's, say if you have a Class A and you have an onboard generator, you can run off that generator. With the gas stop device, it does allow you to comfortably and safely run your propane while you are traveling, because if you were to get into a wreck, God forbid, and a line was severed, it's not going to ignite because that gas stop device will shut that propane off. You got it, 100%. And it shuts it off right there at the tank because that valve goes on right at the tank. So yes, we do. We travel with our propane on ever since we put them on Vinny, our motorhome, and now we're putting it on our Airstream, and we'll do the same thing. Don't let anybody tell you that you have good enough protection on your propane tanks, because it's not the case, and it could save somebody's life. I mean, it really could. These gas stop devices are really, really good protection. I'm going to be installing them on our Airstream. There is an adapter that's needed, and I want to clear something up with this adapter, because the size of the adapter, when you read the size, it really makes no sense, because you need the adapter because your hose end that you get from Gas Stop, it's called gas gear. It's a 90-degree angle, and they're made for these tanks with covers so that that 90-degree angle will fit inside that cover. The hose on the gas gear does not fit in your regulator. It's too small. So therefore you need this adapter. The hose has a 1/4 inch end on it, and so if it does not fit in the regulator, then it's bigger than 1/4 inch, right? Well, true, But the adapter is called a 1/4 inch inverted flare to a 1/4 inch MNPT. There's a little bit of confusion, obviously, with this adapter and why it's called 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch. They're obviously not talking about the other end of this adapter that's bigger. But any adapter that I have ever worked with in plumbing, you know, as no matter what it is, in all my years of construction, working on cars, I've kind of done a little bit of everything in my life. And it's always the female end is one size and the male end is another size. Well, this is an exception. The Acme connection are these that go with a tank cylinder like this, or like your normal barbecue grill tank. And then there's the POL connection. POL connection is like a fixed tank that's in your Class A diesel pusher, a motorhome, and you need one for each tank. So we got these two tanks here, and when we put this tank cover over these tanks, your gas stop device sticks out so far, and then you try to put your hose on, your hose is rubbing right up against that tank cover. Well, you can try turning your tank, but the problem then is when you have this bracket on here, if you turn it too much, right now this is pointing straight that way, and you can't turn it too much the other way either, and then you come off of your tank here if you turn too much. So you can't go too far one way and you can't go too far the other. So the solution is this here. It's a 90-degree angle. So you put your gas stop device on and put this on, and you got a 90-degree angle so that your hose isn't smashed right up against your cover and rubbing against it. Otherwise, you have to leave your cover off and it doesn't look so pretty like that. And we want pretty, right? These hose connections like this is called gas gear. So when you get these and it goes into your regulator, the threads don't match up. So I call my contact for a gas stop, and he wasn't quite sure, so he contacted somebody else, and they told him that we needed a 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch adapter. My first thought was, how can you have 1/4 inch and go into a fitting with a 1/4 inch and it fit, right? I mean, it's obviously bigger threads. So I went to get one of the fittings, and I found one. This is your 1/4, and there's the other end, and you can see that those two fittings are two different sizes. This fits in here, and then this fits into the regulator, like that. Something seemed wrong. 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch didn't seem right. How could you need the same size fitting to go and fit on the other end? And he wasn't sure. He couldn't tell me why, so therefore I couldn't believe him. So I go and I find this adapter on my own at a local RV store here in Texas, and the guy there told me, yep, that's 1/4 inch to 3/8. Then I get online, I put this part number in. Lo and behold, it says a 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch. But what it's called is a 1/4 inch inverted flare to a 1/4 inch MNPT. I researched that on the internet. I could not find anything to explain it. And my contact with Gas Stop couldn't explain it either. He had to reach out to somebody else. Well, I thought they were cuckoo, because 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch isn't going to fit something that's bigger than 1/4 inch. So if anybody out there knows why it's called 1/4 inch on each end when the threads are clearly two different sizes, let me know. And even though this is a male 1/4 inch is going to be this, which fits into the 1/4 inch female. And as I showed you, they're two different sizes. So the lesson here is to let you know, if you run across this, go with it. It's correct. 1/4 inch inverted flare to a 1/4 inch MNPT. Even on the packaging of this, it does not say anywhere 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch. It gives you the part number, and if you look up that ME2132, it'll tell you what it is online. But when I went to find this, and the guy there at the RV store told me it was 1/4 inch to 3/8. So enough beating that dead horse. And sorry for that analogy. So now I'm going to put this gas stop device on. You want these gas stop devices pointing straight up at least, or kind of a 45-degree angle. You do not want them 90-degree or below. If you get in colder weather, basically what happens is that little check valve ball in here that is fine-tuned to close the propane, it drops. So then you have to come out here and you got to prime it 3 or 4 times, whatever it takes, and then you'll see that needle go back up. Best way to tell is on that gauge. If it's in the red, then it's off, or you're out of propane. But when you prime it, you'll see the needle go back up. So this fitting that goes on here does not need to be thread taped, does not need any sealant or anything around it, but this end that goes into your regulator does. So you have to get a gas tape like this. So just wrap this around the threads. Just a couple times is good enough. Make sure you don't get too far over the edge. You don't want it interfering with the hole there, and you need to, since this is turning this way, you want to make sure your tape goes on this way. That way when you're turning this to thread it, if your end went this way and you're threading it, it's going to push that opening of that tape, the end of that tape, back the other way. You want to make sure you don't cross thread this going in there. I could have just put the fitting on first and then put the line on there. Either way, whatever's easier for you. Need to hold the regulator just to make it sturdy. It just needs to be good and snug. Now we'll spray them both with soapy water just to make sure there's no leaks. After I get this end put on here. And then as you can see, you can still hold this and turn this to wherever you want. It's okay to do that. That way you can get the hose located in the position that you want it. Nice thing about these gas stop devices is it also gives you another gauge. Sometimes these old gauges, like right here, these get really foggy and kind of hard to read. Well, this will also let you know if your gas is getting low. I know on our electronic readout inside, they're not always very accurate. Sometimes they vary quite a bit. So now I'm going to turn the propane back on. There will not be any gas going in there until you prime them. Now the gauge moved. Check for bubbles. If there's any pressure coming out of that at all, it'll cause a little bubbles. That's the only way you can tell sometimes, especially on a small leak. As you can see, there's no bubbles coming out, so it looks like we're good. Make sure you spray all your little connections, even on the factory hoses, connections and that, just to be sure. I ran these lines, I did have them underneath the valve. I ran them over the top so that they're not rubbing on this gauge here and some of the other metal parts when it's moving around. It just doesn't rub on as much. Got these turned just enough so that this hose isn't rubbing this edge here. They were turned in just a little bit too much. So we'll see how that works out. We might have to move them around a little bit until we get them just perfect. As you can see, that hose was rubbing a little bit. That one about right there. They've got this valve tightened down to where that valve is hitting straight. If I turn it that angle more, then it's going to come off of this bracket. If I turn it more this way, then this line's going to be rubbing into this here. So about right there is about as good as we can get. Now I just got to make sure. Now these hoses have a pivot point, but you want these gauges pointing straight up as possible. Now we are 100% safe. If there's any gas leaks, it's going to shut it off right here at the tank. Not 90%. So the next time somebody tells you you don't need a gas stop device, it's a waste, because these propane tanks already have a safety device. They do. They have a safety device, but they don't shut the propane off 100%. All it takes is you to listen to somebody that doesn't know 100% of what they're talking about, and I don't say I do, because I'll be the first to admit that I don't. This fitting was a perfect example. They're two different threads. We don't need to go over that again. But anyway, it could cost somebody their life. It really could. So protect yourself with a gas stop device and make sure you're good. And your family. Oh, Stella, you are family. Okay, and your RV. She got mad.
Let's call it a day.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, click that little bell, and hit that thumbs up. See you next week.